Hey, what's up? It's Cute What If? This side. Today we will be seeing what if Deku became young parent. Before we move ahead with the FIC, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. Midoriya once again turned to his great friend Google, but this time it wasn't to search for his idol All Might or anything else. His fingers trembled as he typed, "How to know if I'm pregnant?" He closed his eyes tightly before clicking on the first article that appeared. He reminded himself to stay calm and read carefully, telling himself that he couldn't be pregnant and that he was just imagining things. He bit his lower lip, focusing on the screen. The article listed symptoms of pregnancy. The first symptom mentioned was frequent urination. It stated that starting around 6 weeks into a pregnancy, one might begin to feel the need to urinate more often, which is a common symptom. Midoriya thought it could be a coincidence, reasoning that he usually drank a lot of water. He smiled nervously and continued reading. The next symptom was abdominal bloating, which could occur due to hormonal changes early in pregnancy. He noted that breast tenderness and swelling could also happen shortly after CNCPTN. Feeling a bit anxious, Midoriya placed a hand on his chest, acknowledging that he had been more sensitive lately. He found it hard to think about anything else when he imagined Todoroki Shoto close to him, showering him with affection. He sighed, feeling overwhelmed. The article continued with nausea and vomiting, which typically start about a month after CNCPTN but could happen earlier. It also mentioned that certain smells and tastes might become unpleasant. At that moment, Todoroki, with his bicolor hair, appeared at the bathroom door, looking at him with concern. It was unusual for his boyfriend to feel unwell so often. Midoriya managed a small smile, trying to downplay his discomfort. He suggested it might have been something he ate earlier, but Todoroki didn't seem convinced. Midoriya promised to see Recovery Girl after their patrol, wanting to reassure his boyfriend. Todoroki wrapped his arms around Midoriya's waist and kissed his shoulder, expressing his desire for Midoriya to be well and not to hide how he felt. The article went on to mention fatigue and sleepiness, which could occur early in pregnancy due to hormonal changes. Midoriya leaned his head against Todoroki's shoulder, admitting he felt tired. Todoroki encouraged him to hold on a little longer until their friends arrived. Midoriya felt a wave of anxiety as he closed his laptop, frustrated with the information he had read. Everything seemed to match his symptoms, and the only thing left to confirm his fears was the test on the nightstand. He gripped his thighs tightly, biting his lip until he tasted blood. He knew he had to take the test. Half an hour later, Midoriya found himself in a state of nervousness, dropping the test multiple times, still in disbelief that it showed a positive result. He murmured to himself about how he would tell Todoroki, clutching the test against his chest. He hadn't noticed Todoroki watching him from the doorway for some time. Todoroki cleared his throat, trying to get Midoriya's attention without startling him. When Midoriya jumped and dropped the test again, Todoroki frowned, confused by his boyfriend's nervousness. Midoriya exclaimed that Todoroki had scared him, feeling flustered. Todoroki apologized, and Midoriya smiled, shaking his head. He tried to ask about Todoroki's day but was interrupted when Todoroki called his name in a familiar tone, moving closer. Midoriya flinched at the proximity. Todoroki noticed the sadness in Midoriya's eyes as he turned away to leave the room. Midoriya whispered his boyfriend's name, feeling tears well up. He was on the verge of crying, and Todoroki assured him he wouldn't force him to speak. In a moment of vulnerability, Midoriya revealed that he was pregnant. Todoroki tensed, processing the information. Midoriya rushed to explain, tears streaming down his cheeks, and Todoroki felt an overwhelming urge to comfort him. He cupped Midoriya's face in his hands and leaned in, pressing his lips gently against Midoriya's in a sweet kiss. He repeated the words, "You're pregnant," softly, sealing it with another tender kiss. Midoriya nodded, confirming that they would have a baby. Todoroki placed a hand on Midoriya's slightly rounded stomach, feeling a silence envelop them. Midoriya was anxious about how Todoroki would react, as they had never discussed the topic of children before. Noticing Midoriya's apprehension, Todoroki smiled and said he was very happy, genuinely thrilled at the news. Midoriya, wiping his eyes, expressed his love, and Todoroki returned the smile, feeling a warmth in his heart. Chapter End. The Christmas season was Midoriya's favorite time of year. He loved putting up the Christmas tree, decorating the house, and wearing oversized sweaters adorned with festive patterns. On the other hand, there was his boyfriend, Todoroki, who was less enthusiastic about the holidays. He didn't care much for the festivities, but he did love the excitement of his small, freckled boyfriend. "Welcome, Shoto!" Izuku exclaimed with excitement as he saw Todoroki enter the living room, wearing a red sweater with a large tree design. "I'm putting the ornaments on the tree. I just need the star, but I can't reach it," he pouted. "I can help you with that, darling," Shoto replied as he approached the boy, gently rubbing his hand on his small waist before leaning down to give him a quick kiss, smiling when he saw Izuku blush. Midoriya loved when Todoroki surprised him with kisses. "Will you place it?" Izuku asked, looking up at him due to their height difference. Todoroki shook his head, and the green-haired boy frowned in confusion. "What do you mean?" A surprised squeak escaped his lips as Todoroki lifted him by the waist to help him place the star on top of the tree. Izuku, completely flushed, carefully positioned the star at the tip, smiling with satisfaction when it stayed in place. The last time he tried to do that, the tree had toppled over. Todoroki was careful as he set him back down, his hands instinctively moving to Izuku's belly, lifting his sweater to gently caress it with his fingertips, tracing imaginary circles. Izuku smiled, feeling the warmth of Todoroki's touch. "Will you spend Christmas with your family?" "You are my family, Izuku," Todoroki replied. Izuku's green eyes sparkled upon hearing those words, and with a wide, sincere smile, he said, "I love you, Shoto." Chapter End. December 24th, 7:41 p.m. Todoroki residence. Fuyumi had insisted on spending Christmas together. Shoto didn't want to see his father, but now he found himself face to face with him. Midoriya nervously smiled and extended his hand in greeting, but his father clicked his tongue and reluctantly took it. "Can you behave?" Shoto said irritably, addressing his father's behavior. "Are you giving me orders now, Shoto?" his father retorted. "You can't be serious. Why don't you just leave? Your presence annoys me. This is my house. Shouldn't you be the one to leave?" "This is not." "Shoto," Midoriya whispered, taking his hand to prevent him from stepping closer to his father. He knew how this would end, and it wouldn't be good. Will they not stop fighting even on Christmas? He thought. Shoto sighed, trying to calm down. He didn't want his boyfriend to have a bad night just because of his father. "Let's go inside." 8:46 p.m. The food was good. Fuyumi tried to make the dinner atmosphere less awkward with cheerful conversation, and everything was going well. "How many months along are you?" she asked Midoriya, who looked surprised. Shoto remained silent, waiting for his boyfriend to respond, but seeing his shock, he decided to speak for him. "He's 2 months along. He'll be 3 in a few days, exactly on December 30th. Their father cleared his throat. "Did I hear that correctly?" The fire in his beard seemed to intensify as he glared at his son, then at the green-haired boy, and finally at his daughter. "Shoto, I allowed you to be with All Might's pupil, but to get him Piardinanti? What were you thinking?" "I wasn't really thinking at all," Shoto said sincerely. Midoriya's face turned red. He couldn't believe his boyfriend had just said that. Fuyumi burst into laughter, which quickly stopped when she saw their father's furious expression. The rest was easy to imagine. Chapter End. December Midoriya residence. 7:48 p.m. "How was your time with your family, Shoto?" Inko asked with a smile as she saw him enter the kitchen. She was serving food. Shoto offered to set the table while Midoriya rested on the sofa with his sister, Fuyumi. The Todoroki siblings had visited their mother earlier in the day, wishing her a happy new year, hugging her, and murmuring comforting words when she began to cry and apologize for everything. "It was fine," he replied. He knew Midoriya would be upset if he mentioned anything about what happened at dinner. Inko handed him a plate of food, and Shoto frowned, unsure of what to do until the green-haired boy pointed to the table. "Was your mother there?" Shoto shook his head as he placed the plates on the table. "No, she didn't want to come." Oh, that must be difficult. I understand. Who would want to see my stupid father? I can barely stand him in the mornings. Sometimes your honesty surprises me, Inko said with a chuckle. Shoto nodded. Many have told me that. 8:38 p.m. The dinner was wonderful. Thank you, Inko, Fuyumi said gratefully. Thank you for joining us. The women smiled. It's a shame your father couldn't be here. I would have liked to spend some time with him. Oh yes. He regrets it, but he was a bit busy. He sent me a message about it, Shoto replied. Midoriya frowned. Shoto didn't have a cell phone, he had lost it during patrol. He decided to leave it for later. 11:49 p.m. Guys, it's almost New Year's, Midoriya said enthusiastically. Todoroki sighed as he watched him. Midoriya was wearing another one of his oversized sweaters with patterns, black jeans, and his trusty red sneakers. His belly was barely noticeable due to the loose fit of the sweater. Can we talk? He whispered in Midoriya's ear. The green-haired boy looked confused but nodded again. Shoto took his wrist and guided him to the backyard of the Midoriya residence. What's wrong? Midoriya asked nervously. Todoroki stammered, frowning as he heard himself. I must sound foolish stuttering, but I can't find the right way to say this, so I'll be honest. Midoriya trembled. Was Todoroki breaking up with him? Was he going to leave him with their baby? What's wrong, Shoto? He asked again, trying not to cry. Shoto swallowed hard. I didn't plan to do this, not now, but the situation I hope you understand. If you don't want this, that's okay, I will respect your decision. It's normal. Shoto! Midoriya exclaimed, bringing a hand to his mouth. Why was he kneeling? Izuku, I love you, you know that, and I love that little being in your belly, he said, licking his lips. Izuku expressed his desire for them to be a true family. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black box. Was it what he was thinking? Izuku felt a rush of emotions as he saw the ring. Shoto smiled and wrapped his arms around Izuku's waist, drawing him closer. He asked if Izuku would marry him. Tears quickly rolled down Izuku's freckled cheeks as he jumped into Shoto's embrace, excitedly saying yes. Shoto's smile widened as he leaned in closer, their lips almost touching. Izuku confirmed his acceptance of the proposal, overwhelmed with love and joy. Before he could finish his thought, Shoto gently kissed him, taking his time to savor the moment. The sound of fireworks signaled the arrival of a new year, causing them to momentarily pull apart. Izuku buried his face in Shoto's neck, completely blushing. Shoto wished him a happy new year, and Izuku returned the sentiment with a shy smile. Changes in mood during PRGSY are normal, and Shoto understood this well. However, it was quite another thing to see his partner upset over something like ice cream. He sighed and called out to Izuku, not wanting to make him cry again. Izuku looked at him with red eyes from crying and asked what was wrong. Shoto felt a pang of concern for his boyfriend. Izuku indignantly interrupted Shoto, expressing his frustration over the lack of ice cream. He pouted, looking like an upset little bunny, and dramatically lamented that Shoto never thought of him. Shoto tried to explain, but Izuku continued to cry, questioning if Shoto still loved him. Shoto sighed and took Izuku by the shoulders, silencing him with a slow, tender kiss. He gently wiped away Izuku's tears with his thumbs, trying to convey his love through the kiss. After parting for air, Shoto reassured Izuku that he would go get more ice cream but first needed him to listen. Izuku nodded, feeling both embarrassed and flustered. Shoto placed his hands on Izuku's belly and caressed it gently, expressing his deep love for both Izuku and their baby. On January 8th, Shoto was on patrol while Izuku was having a panic attack because they were out of peanut butter. Izuku called Shoto in a panic, his breathing quickened as he exclaimed that they had run out of peanut butter. Shoto, concerned, asked what was wrong. Izuku's distress was palpable as he repeated his worry about the peanut butter. Shoto sighed, realizing that lately Izuku had been more sensitive about food. He feigned surprise, noting that he had bought enough for 3 days. However, Izuku felt offended, thinking Shoto was implying something about his eating habits. Izuku abruptly ended the call, leaving Shoto to sigh in frustration. He turned to Google for help, searching for ways to calm his PRGNT boyfriend without losing his patience. January 11th. Shoto's birthday. Shoto called out as he opened the door to the apartment he shared with Midoriya, noting the silence that greeted him. He frowned, sensing that Midoriya had been distant in recent days. While he understood that it was normal due to the PRGNCY hormones, it was unusual for Midoriya to ignore him completely. Izuku, love? He sighed heavily when he received no response. He headed to the kitchen, setting down the grocery bags on the counter, unaware of the individuals in the living room. In the kitchen, he tilted his head in confusion. Why was there a cake in the oven? Without thinking much, he took out his phone to call his fiancée, but the familiar song he knew so well played in the living room. It didn't take long for the music to stop, indicating that Midoriya had turned off his phone. A feeling he recognized as fear settled in his chest. Why wasn't Midoriya answering? Why had he turned off his phone? Who was in their living room? Shoto pushed aside the fear, replaced by anger. If anyone dared to touch his little one, he would not hold back. He approached the hallway leading to the living room cautiously, but the individuals seemed to sense his approach. As soon as he stepped into the room, the lights turned on, accompanied by shouts of surprise. His expression remained serious as he scanned the faces of his classmates, searching for any sign of Midoriya. Happy birthday, Todoroki! Kirishima cheered enthusiastically. Where is Izuku? Shoto asked, ignoring the birthday wishes. He went to. Kirishima was interrupted by a familiar voice saying, "Get behind me, Deku," followed by the sound of the door opening. Shoto raised an eyebrow at the sight of Katsuki alongside his little one, who was smiling widely at the blonde with flushed cheeks. Guys, we couldn't find napkins, but I don't think that matters. Are you ready? Shoto will be here any minute. He fell silent, realizing that Shoto was right in front of him, staring intently. What are you doing here? He exclaimed, placing one hand on his chest and the other on his round stomach. I got to leave early for my birthday, Midoriya shrugged, appearing indifferent. Bakugo rolled his eyes and headed straight for the kitchen. He was starving and wouldn't wait for any of those idiots, not even the birthday boy. Surprise! Midoriya pouted, wanting to surprise his boyfriend and give him the birthday party he deserved. Yeah, I guess. Shoto shrugged again, looking at his classmates. He let out a long sigh. Midoriya had done this for him, and even though he didn't enjoy talking to many people, he would have to endure it, just for his little one. 2 hours later, everyone was on the terrace, some chatting while others Kaminari and Bakugo argued over snacks. Did you expect the surprise party? Momo asked, giving him a small hug. Midoriya frowned as he watched them from a distance. No. Momo smiled. Izuku contacted us days ago. He wanted to do something special for you. You deserve it. Shoto nodded, taking a sip of his drink. I would have preferred to spend my birthday with him, just the two of us. This wasn't necessary, you know me. Momo sighed, letting out a small laugh. I do. I figured that out when I saw your face as you walked into the room. It was like, what are you all doing here? Where's my little one? Get out, idiots. I hate you all. Exaggerated. It is what it is, the dark-haired girl laughed. Hey, Izuku greeted, positioning himself next to his fiancée. Don't you want some cake? Shoto shook his head, and Momo grimaced. I don't like sweet things, love. I'm fine with my drink. It's your birthday, Shoto. Izuku pouted, ignoring the girl's response. You have to eat at least a little, please? Shoto raised an eyebrow. He had noticed that. Fine, I'll go get some with you. Is it okay if you stay here, Momo? He asked, and the girl smiled, nodding. I'm fine. Come on, Shoto, Midoriya urged, grabbing his wrist. Shoto wanted to laugh. He really did. Midoriya was jealous. It wasn't the first time he had felt jealous, but it was the first time he had been rude to someone. Once they were in the kitchen, Shoto decided to ask him. What happened outside? Midoriya looked at him, confused. What do you mean? He whispered, serving himself a small piece of cake. About Momo. Silence. What about her? He said minutes later, pretending to be oblivious. Tell me, Izuku, you were rude. Midoriya pouted, his eyes glistening. He set the plate with the cake on the counter. Was I too rude? A whimper escaped his lips. His mother would be disappointed if she had seen him act that way. I didn't mean to adjust. Should I go apologize? Of course, I should go. His green eyes focused on Shoto, and he fell silent for a few seconds, frowning. This is your fault. Before Shoto could respond, Midoriya rushed out of the kitchen. Pardon's hormones, Uraraka said, appearing out of nowhere and startling him. Is it hard? Shoto nodded, letting out a sigh. He cries for ice cream. The girl laughed. I figured as much. She lightly patted his shoulder. Shoto, I wish you luck. There are still 5 more months to go. January 17th. 12:15 p.m. What's wrong? Are you feeling dizzy? Izuku, please answer me, Shoto said with concern, sitting on the edge of the bed. The younger man sobbed, tightly squeezing his eyes shut. He took Shoto's hand in his and held it tightly, saying, it hurts a lot. 4:08 p.m. Hospital. No one could decipher what was going through Shoto's mind. He sat seriously in the corner, waiting for news about his little one. We don't know anything for now, Inko informed Fuyumi, who had just arrived, completely frightened by her brother's recent message. Hospital. Now. What happened? Bleeding, abdominal cramps, and lower back pain. Fuyumi stifled a sob, and Inko nodded sadly. Isn't that a threat of? Yes, it is. Todoroki knows too. January 17th. 8:46 p.m. The hours that passed were torture for Shoto. They had no news about his little one. They will be fine, Fuyumi said before stepping away to take a call. Shoto sighed, murmuring to himself, I hope so. 9:11 p.m. When Recovery Girl approached them, her expression reflected sadness and concern. Have you been informed? She asked Inko. The green-haired woman shook her head, clasping her hands nervously. There was a problem with another hero. I apologize for the delay. I will take you to Izuku now. He is awake. Is he okay? We'll talk about that on the way. Shoto, follow us. He felt relieved when he saw him lying on the stretcher. The green-haired boy offered a small smile, appearing paler than usual. Inko approached him, kissing his cheek and embracing him around the neck, a sob escaping her lips. Izuku smiled, trying to reassure her. Recovery Girl's voice resonated in the room as she took the folder with the boy's information. She informed him that he had experienced a threat of issy and asked how long he had been feeling those pains. Shoto positioned himself beside Izuku, who felt dizzy from the information. They had almost lost their baby. Izuku explained that the pains had started as mild the day before but had worsened. Recovery Girl sighed, returning to her reading, noting that everything seemed fine and expressing confusion about how this had happened. Izuku's voice trembled as he revealed that he had fallen 3 days prior. Inko shook her head sadly, expressing concern that he could have lost the baby. Izuku insisted it was an accident and was shocked to hear the possibility of losing the child. Shoto explained that they were having a girl, smiling gently as their eyes met. Recovery Girl urged Izuku to be more careful, reminding him that he now had a little creature to protect. Shoto agreed, and Izuku, feeling overwhelmed, admitted he understood and felt terrible for hiding the truth. Shoto gently took Izuku's chin, bringing their faces close together. He acknowledged that Izuku had made a mistake but reassured him that it was not his fault. Izuku looked incredulous, but Shoto continued, explaining that he understood the situation and that everything was fine now. He encouraged Izuku not to cry and to be more cautious in the future. The two shared a tender moment, with Shoto leaning in for a sweet kiss and expressing his love. Several months later, Izuku called out to Shoto in the early morning, excitedly announcing that the baby was kicking. Shoto froze, unsure of how to respond. Izuku took Shoto's hand and placed it on his belly, urging him to feel the movement. Shoto nodded, leaning in to share a gentle kiss with Izuku, expressing his love and resting his head on Izuku's shoulder, feeling the joy of the moment. Later, Izuku expressed frustration over the absence of ice cream, jokingly declaring he wanted a divorce over the matter. Shoto was taken aback, reminding Izuku that they weren't even married yet. Days passed after their playful argument, and they decided to get married when Izuku reached 7 months. They had 1 month to plan a simple beach wedding in Okinawa. Meeting with the wedding planner, they discussed decorations and cakes. Izuku eagerly requested an ice cream cake, while Shoto tried to keep things simple. As they planned, Shoto found it challenging to manage Izuku's cravings and emotions. They bickered over details like the menu and attire. Shoto suggested that Izuku wear something comfortable, but Izuku took it the wrong way, feeling self-conscious. Despite the tension, Shoto knew it was part of their journey together. On the day of the wedding, he felt nervous but excited as he saw Izuku walking toward him on the beach, looking beautiful and radiant. All the struggles they faced, including the fear of being discovered and the challenges of planning, faded away in that moment. Seeing Izuku's joy made everything worthwhile. Izuku instinctively placed his hand on his belly, feeling the baby kick during the ceremony. He laughed softly, thinking the little one could sense his excitement. The sound of the waves brought a sense of calm, reminding him that the celebration was waiting for them. Pero vamos, sus amigos no lo extrañarían si perdió unos minutos. Estaban pasados de copas como para notarlo. Mientras tanto, en la fiesta, Todoroki preguntó a sus compañeros que bailaban en la barra, un poco demasiado ebrias si habían visto a Izuku. Uraraka frunció su seno y, mientras las demás chicas continuaban bailando, le respondió que no sabía a quién se refería. Todoroki insistió, mencionando a Midoriya, Izuku, Deku, su mejor amigo. La chica sonrió y asintió, reconociendo el nombre. Cuando le preguntó si lo había visto, Uraraka titubeó. Shoto rodo sus ojos y decidió olvidarlo. Uraraka se encogió de hombres y volvió a bailar. En ese momento, Kirishima se acercó a Shoto, abrazándolo por los hombres y expresando lo increíble que era la fiesta. Shoto frunció el seno, incómodo por la muestra de afecto. Kirishima, riendo, dijo que solo había tomado unas copas. Sin embargo, fue interrumpido por Katsuki, quien lo advirtió que ese control era, ya que no quería lidiar con su comportamiento melancólico. Shoto se sintió aún más incómodo, pero luego se dio cuenta de que Bakugo era el único en la fiesta que no había probado alcohol. Shoto llamó la atención de Bakugo, quien lo miró con desdén. Le preguntó si había visto a Midoriya. Katsuki respondió de manera brusca, mencionando que no era su niñera. Shoto suspiró, sintiendo pena por Kirishima, quien tenía que soportar el mal carácter de su novio. Momo se unió a la conversación, informando que Midoriya estaba en la playa. Shoto asintió aliviado y salió en busca de su esposo. Al ver la silueta de Izuku a lo lejos, se sintió tranquilo al encontrarlo sentado en la arena. Se acercó despacio, siendo cuidadoso para no asustarlo. Izuku se sobresaltó al escuchar su voz y levantó la vista, revelando el bote de helado en su regazo. Shoto casi rueda los ojos, pensando que debió suponerlo. Izuku se dejó llevar por la sensación del momento, expresando su placer. Shoto, preocupado, le preguntó si estaba bien. Izuku le aseguró que no dolía tanto como la última vez, pero que se sentía bien. Shoto, sin estar completamente convencido, sugirió que tal vez deberían parar. Bakugo, quien había entrado en la sala, interrumpió con su comentario sarcástico sobre la situación. Izuku se sintió avergonzado por la atención que estaban recibiendo. Katsuki, en su estilo directo, expresó que no le importaba si el helado era de Izuku, ya que tenía hambre. Izuku, decidido, abrazó el bote de helado como si su vida dependiera de ello. Momo, observando la tensión, decidió ir a buscar a Todoroki, dejando a Uraraka sola con los dos chicos. La vida de casados no era tan sencilla. Shoto suspiró y le recordó a Izuku que debía dejar los dulces, como le había indicado Recovery Girl. Sin embargo, Izuku negó y regresó a la cocina, Donde Shoto le bloqueo el paso, impidiendo abrir la nevera. Izuku, con un puchero, insistió en que no digería el helado. Shoto, tratando de mantener la calma, le recordó que su salud era importante. La tensión aumentó cuando Shoto, con un tono frío, le recordó a Izuku que había tenido complications y que debía pensar en su bienestar y el de su futuro hijo. Izuku, con los ojos llenos de lágrimas, intentó explicar que así pensaba en su bebé. Shoto, frustrado, se alejó, sintiendo el peso de la situación. Midoriya, por su parte, sintió un gran dolor, pero no fue solo el de su corazón. Chapter End. Hospital. Inko approached carefully, her face filled with concern. She began slowly, explaining that they had a discussion about the sugar consumption, but she hadn't been careful enough. "It's not your fault, dear. You were worried," Inko said, taking Shoto's hands in hers and giving them a reassuring squeeze. "Izuku can be very stubborn, I understand perfectly." Uraraka rushed over, visibly agitated. "Has the baby arrived yet?" Shoto shook his head, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of him was happy that his friends were there during this time. "No, we don't know anything yet," Inko informed them. Shoto sighed, feeling frustrated with himself. He thought he was being foolish. Momo sat beside him, giving his arm a gentle squeeze. "Everything will be fine, Shoto. Your little ones are strong." Shoto nodded, grateful for their support. Inko then asked if they had come alone. Uraraka opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, a nurse's voice echoed in the hallway. "I'm sorry, but you can't bring food in here. Please understand." Katsuki's voice boomed from outside, not surprising anyone. He had been more irritable lately. "I'm carrying a baby, can't you understand that?" The ruby-eyed friend joined them, holding a pizza box, with Kirishima following behind, looking embarrassed. "Is everything okay?" Todoroki asked, trying to maintain a casual tone. Katsuki, with his mouth full of pizza, replied, "You tell me, B. How's the idiot?" Recovery Girl said she would inform us when she had news, Inko said, her impatience growing as she glanced at the door. "We're not sure yet. Isn't the baby supposed to arrive in a few weeks?" Katsuki clicked his tongue, glancing at Inko's belly. "Don't even think about doing that, got it?" Inko shook her head, laughing softly at Katsuki's protective nature. Minutes felt like hours as Shoto struggled with his impatience. While he had been grateful for his friend's presence, he was starting to feel overwhelmed. Katsuki was arguing with Denki over a piece of pizza, while Kirishima tried to calm him down. Ashido was playing on her phone at full volume, and Uraraka was asking how to download something. Inko and Fuyumi had gone to the hospital cafeteria, promising something spicy for the expectant father. Momo was the only one maintaining silence, which Shoto appreciated. "Are you tired?" Momo broke the silence. "I am." Not having news about Izuku, Todoroki trailed off, unable to finish his thought. Suddenly, Recovery Girl appeared before him, looking excited and with tears in her eyes. "Todoroki, you need to come with me now." Chapter End. Hospital. Midoriya fainted after giving birth to their daughter. Recovery Girl hurried to explain that he was losing a lot of blood and they needed to take him to the newborn area. Holding his daughter in his arms brought a smile of joy to Shoto's face. He saw her as the most beautiful thing in the world, and to him, she truly was. She wore a pink onesie, and her head was adorned with a little hat with cat ears, her red hair peeking out. She would be a lovely redhead. He almost rolled his eyes at the thought of his father celebrating. He wasn't surprised when he entered the room and saw that his daughter was the smallest. A chuckle escaped his lips. It was expected since Midoriya was her mother. He was pulled from his thoughts by his friends, who entered the room excited to meet the little one in his arms. Bakugo was the last to enter, muttering under his breath about the nurse. Momo was the first to hold the baby, her face lighting up when she noticed the outfit she had gifted to Midoriya. "She's precious." Uraraka nodded, gently stroking the baby's cheek with her pinky. "They definitely made her with love." Denki tilted his head, raising his eyebrows at Jiru. "Our child could turn out just as cute, think about it." Bakugo, sitting in the corner, set aside his now empty pudding cup and spoke up. What about that idiot Deku? Todoroki sighed. I don't know. You don't know. Bakugo clicked his tongue. I don't understand how you can be so calm. What are you trying to say? Shoto asked, feeling a mix of emotions. Kirishima decided to intervene, not wanting another outburst that could get them kicked out of the hospital. Katsuki, come on. Shut up, will you? Katsuki shot back, smiling at Kirishima, who blushed at the nickname. Then he turned to Shoto. You're doing fine, enjoying your daughter, while your husband is. I don't get how you can be so okay. What makes you think I'm okay? Shoto replied, feeling the weight of the moment. Katsuki studied Shoto's face, seeing nothing but a mask of calm. Was he the only one suffering? Tears threatened to spill down Bakugo's cheeks. The room fell into complete silence. Stupid PRDY hormones, he grumbled, wiping his cheeks roughly. Kirishima sat beside him, pulling Bakugo into an embrace, which he returned instantly, burying his face in his boyfriend's chest and allowing himself to cry quietly. Shoto shook his head, wanting to express that he was just as scared as everyone else. The vibration of his phone interrupted the moment. Shoto excused himself, stepping out of the room. Before leaving, he turned to Bakugo and said firmly, You're losing a friend, I understand that. Now think about me, I'm losing the love of my life. Chapter end. You went too far, Kirishima whispered to his boyfriend. Bakugo grunted. I don't care. Kirishima rolled his eyes, and Katsuki hit his chest in indignation. He didn't like that Kirishima was acting like that. What did he think he was doing? Room 3B. Shoto could never get used to seeing his husband on a hospital bed. He hated it. Midoriya always said things like, it's comfortable, or, it's not as bad as it seems, Shoto, but he still despised it. Now, sitting in front of Midoriya's bed, he missed the way his husband would try to lighten the mood with comments about how hospital beds weren't so bad. All might, Shoto said, surprised to see him enter the room. Inko said you were outside. Tashinori sighed, shaking his head with a small, tired smile that was rare for him. Congratulations. You have a truly beautiful daughter. Shoto suppressed a smile, looking at his husband resting in the bed. She looks just like Izuku. Tashinori nodded, moving closer to pat Shoto's back affectionately. I can't stay away if Midoriya isn't stable. How? Inko informed me. Any news? I haven't received confirmation, but I know he will get through this. Es fuerte. Claro que lo es, Tashinori Asensio. Se me olvido avisar, papa para por aquí, fiumi daijo con una mueca en sus labios. Shoto, que trae a su hija en brazos, rodo sus ojos. ¿Para qué? Es normal que quiera conocer a mi nieta, la voz de endeavor les hizo sobresaltarse. No es normal si viene de ti, fiumi codio ligeramente su hermano para que ese limitera con sus comentarios, no quería que tuvieran una pelea en el hospital. ¿Estarás tan a la defensiva, Shoto? Su padre rodó los ojos, acercándose a él. Enseñame a mi preciosa nieta. Todoroki miró directamente a los ojos a su padre. Fiumi pensó que en cualquier momento todo se descontrolaría. Shoto, murmuró Endeavor, tratando de no gritar el nombre de su hijo ya que su nieta se encontraba dormida. Shoto suspiró, pasando a la pequeña Akira a su padre, quien la tomó en brazos con delicadeza, sonriendo al ver su cabello rojizo. En I lo mentions, Shoto advirtió, pero su padre lo ignoró. Es toda una Todoroki, yet en el cabello rojizo, posiblemente tendrá mis ojos también, miró a la pequeña con una gran sonrisa. No puedo imaginarme su queer. Calate, Todoroki gruñó. No mentions a mi hija en tus cosas raras. Fuyumi, que escuchaba todo en silencio, finalmente decidió intervenir antes de que empeorara. Es hora de alimentarla, debo lavarla con la enfermera. Se acercó a su padre para tomar a Akira en sus brazos, sonriendo con ternura a Todoroki y murmurando un silencioso por favor antes de salir. Endeavor sonrió. Felicidades, Shoto. Akira será una gran heroína. Puedes dejar de pensar en eso? Mi esposo está arriba, and muy mal estado y tú solo. And I crees que arruinarás su infancia como lo hiciste conmigo, shoto escupio con enojo. No arruin tu infancia, te entrené para que fueras el más fuerte, shoto. Eso lo llamas entrenamiento? Todoroki soltó una risa sin ninguna pizca de gracia, miró el reloj en la pared, ya era hora de visitas. Cuando regres no quiero verte aquí, y salió. Todoroki sigu con midoriya? Kirishima preguntó. Suele dormir junto a la Camila en hora de visita, está muy cansado como para ir a casa y tomar una buena siesta. Fuyumi respondió mirando de riojo a Katsuki, que lavaba en brazos a Akira. Katsuki escaneó el rostro de la pequeña en sus brazos, su cabello color rojo sangre hacía resaltar su pálida piel, con una nariz respingada y largas pestañas, por último sus mejillas, que estaban repletas de pecas. Era una copia exacta de midoriya. ¿Qué fea estas? Kirishima ahogó un gemido de sorpresa. Y es una bibi. ¿Y luego qué? Eso no le cuida lo fea. Fuyumi negó con su cabeza, una pequeña risilla brotó de sus labios mientras tomaba a su sobrina en brazos. No deberías dejar eso cuando tienes un bibi en camino. Katsuki chasqueó su lengua, alzando una ceja incrédulo ante el comentario de la peli blanca. ¿Qué estás tratando de decir el mocoso? Se señaló ese mismo con su mano izquierda. Por favor, mira el padre que le tocó. Kirishima rió, tomando por la cintura a su novio. Vamos carino, y es hora de visitar a midoriya. Miró a Fuyumi. Nos vimos después. Cuidens. No creo que debemos entrar ACI, Katsuki, dijo Kirishima. Bakugo ignoró a su novio, caminando hasta la puerta, la cual abrió de golpe, gruñendo. Oye, bastardo, y es mucho lo que estuviste aquí. ¿No quieres ir a comer algo? Te ves mal, por cierto. Todoroki, que se encontraba con su cabeza recargada en la orilla de la Camila, se levantó de golpe, mareándose en el acto. ¿No puedes entrar como una persona normal, Bakugo? Murmuró, frunciendo el seno. Lo siento, hermano, se disculpó Kirishima por su novio, como siempre. Solo pasamos a ver cómo se encontraban, dijo acercándose a la Camila, donde permanecía el mencionado conectado a varios aparatos que no entendía del todo para qué servían. Su respiración era calmada, sus ojos se encontraban cerrados y sus labios resecos. Se sintió mal y decidió apartar la vista al de cabellos bicolor, se retractó inmediatamente. Todoroki miraba con tristeza y enhilo a su marido. Estamos bien, si. Gracias por venir. ¿Qué han dicho de él? Katsuki preguntó desde la entrada, no queriendo acercarse tanto, sabía que se derrumbaría. Nada nuevo, shoto suspiró, apretando sus labios en una fina línea. Y es lo mismo, no saben cuándo puede despedir o si siquiera lo hará. Kirishima palmeó su hombro. Ánimo, hermano. Todo saldrá bien. Conocimos a midoriya, y es bastante fuerte, sonrió. Yacise pasó la tarde, conversando tranquilamente, junto a varios insultos por parte de Katsuki. Finalmente llegó la hora de despedirse. Quedaban 10 minutos para finalizar la hora de visitas. Oh, vamos hermano. Ejiro exclamó, tratando de convencer a Todoroki para que se uniera a la pequeña reunión en la pizzería junto a sus viejos compañeros de clase. No creo que sea lo correcto, se encogió de hombres, restando importancia al asunto. Tengo que estar al cuidado de Akira Izuku. Fuyumi está preocupada por ti, Kirishima suspiró. Dice que no has estado comiendo y tu ánimo es peor. Por favor, acepta esta salida, solo como un poco y después puedes retirarte. Sí, bastardo, Katsuki finalmente habló, irritado por la insistencia de su novio. Solo como y te vas. ¿Qué importa lo que pase con Deku? Why Todoroki se and Furicio? Como se atrevia a decer que su Izuku no importaba? Enojado, se acercó a Katsuki, listo para decirle sus verdades. No lo importaba que estuviera embarazado, no tenía derecho a decer esas horribles cosas, pero entonces. Típico de ti, Kaken, un suave susurro entrecortado se escuchó a sus espaldas. Los chicos asombrados se dieron vuelta, encontrándose con Izuku de ojos cansados y grandes ojos debajo de estos. Pero para Todoroki, midoriya se veía precioso, en cualquier lugar o momento. Para sus ojos, Izuku siempre se miraría precioso porque así es cuando estás enamorado y realmente no lo importaba admitirlo. Estaba enamorado de Izuku midoriya. ¿Y saben que era lo mejor? Que este lo acompañaría el resto de su vida. No ha sido fácil llegar a este momento porque hemos pasado por muchas pruebas que, en lugar de alejarnos, nos hicieron una pareja más sólida. Jamás hemos perdido la esencia de nuestro amor y eso hizo que me diera cuenta de que lo único que necesitaba era vivir el resto de mi vida al lado de una persona tan maravillosa como tú. Yo, Todoroki Shoto, te recibo a ti, midoriya Izuku, como mi esposo y me entrego a ti. Permito ser fiel en la prosperidad y en la adversidad, en la salud y en la enfermedad, y así amar y respetar todos los días de mi vida hasta que la muerte nos separe. Fin. Todoroki knew that being first-time parents was challenging. Adjusting to the routine and changing diapers was not easy, but he told himself that he would support midoriya through everything. However, they did not expect the first few weeks to be such a struggle. Midoriya cried out in distress, prompting Shoto to rush into the kitchen. He found a small Izuku tearfully staring at a burned pink bottle on the stove. Concerned, Shoto asked what had happened. Midoriya explained that his mother had said to prepare the bottles a certain way. Shoto realized that Midoriya had not added enough water, leading to a moment of panic. From mistakes, one learns, or so they say. Midoriya then questioned if the diaper seemed a bit off, to which Shoto tilted his head and replied that it looked fine. That day, they received a stern lecture from Midoriya's mother for putting the diaper on incorrectly, which had caused a mess. Fast forward to the present, and they were doing better than at the beginning. Izuku was roused from his sleep by Akira's cries. He tried to nudge Todoroki to get up and feed her, but the bed was empty. With a sigh, he got up and headed to their daughter's room. It had become normal for Todoroki to be out late fighting villains while Izuku stayed home to care for Akira. Both roles were exhausting in their own right, leading to fatigue and irritability. Izuku smiled at his daughter as he gently lifted her from the crib, soothing her cries while making his way to the kitchen to prepare her milk. He was grateful for the intensive training he had received from Recovery Girl and his mother, which had taught him how to be a good dad and prepare a bottle. As he prepared the milk, Akira's cries began to quiet, and she made small noises while watching her father. Izuku searched the kitchen for the bottles, finally finding them and letting out a sigh of relief, knowing that Akira would soon be hungry again. Feeding her and changing her diapers had become second nature. The only area where he struggled was in maintaining patience. Once he finished feeding her, she quickly fell asleep, which was typical for her. However, she woke up 30 minutes later with a loud, persistent cry that grew more intense. Izuku began to panic. He called Inko, who advised him to check if the diaper was dirty. With trembling hands, he checked and found that it was not the issue. His mother sighed and reassured him that sometimes babies just cry for no reason and suggested he try to distract her. He attempted to entertain her with toys, holding up a limited edition All Might doll that her godfather Kirishima had gifted her. Izuku pouted as he mentioned that he hadn't received one himself. For a brief moment, Akira looked at him, her emerald eyes filled with tears. He placed the doll in her tiny hand, and she immediately brought it to her mouth. Izuku let out a small squeal of excitement. It was a limited edition. However, Akira, startled by her father's reaction, began to cry again, accidentally dropping the doll, which rolled away and ended up at Midoriya's feet. Unable to hold back any longer, Izuku joined her in tears. Chapter 1. Akira was 9 months old. Midoriya's voice came through the phone, sounding concerned as he asked if Todoroki really wanted to take Akira to the supermarket. Todoroki had returned home early and, after thanking the babysitter for taking care of his daughter, he realized he had forgotten to restock some essentials. Now, he had to take Akira with him. Todoroki confirmed that he would go, and Midoriya, sensing his friend's nerves, offered to join him. However, Todoroki insisted that Akira couldn't wait. Midoriya sighed, trying to calm his worries. It wasn't that he didn't trust Shoto. He knew he would take good care of her, but the protective instinct of a parent was always there. Strapping Akira into the car's seat was a challenge. Once he ensured she was secure, he started the engine. A few moments later, his phone rang. It was Kirishima. Kirishima greeted him with a tired voice and explained that he was organizing a surprise birthday party for Bakugo. Todoroki frowned as he parked the car. He asked if Kirishima needed anything, to which Kirishima replied that he could use help with the cooking since Bakugo loved spicy food. Todoroki agreed to help but teased that if he refused, Kirishima would tell Midoriya. They both laughed, and Todoroki promised to be there at the designated time. Kirishima mentioned that he preferred the party at Todoroki's house to avoid raising any suspicions. Suddenly, a loud voice interrupted the conversation, and the call ended abruptly. Confused, Todoroki shrugged it off and headed into the supermarket. He grabbed a shopping cart that had a baby seat and froze when he remembered Akira was still in the car. He rushed back, opening the door to find her happily playing with her rattle. Their eyes met, and he felt a wave of relief wash over him. He scooped her up and whispered that they would keep their little adventure a secret from Izuku. Chapter 2. Akira was 11 months old, and Todoroki found himself surprised to see his friends at his home when he opened the door. Denki, bursting with energy, explained that it was Saturday and that Midoriya had invited them over. Kirishima followed closely, carrying 2 baby carriers, mentioning that Bakugo would join them later with the twins. Todoroki rolled his eyes but let them in. He acknowledged that Kirishima had a point about not saying goodbye the previous day when he had only picked up Akira and left. Midoriya appeared with Akira in his arms, who reached out for her father with a joyful squeal. Midoriya passed her to Todoroki and complimented the twins, who were peacefully sleeping in their carriers. As laughter filled the house, Todoroki felt a warm sense of camaraderie. Denki eagerly asked what was for lunch, and the atmosphere was lively. Half an hour later, the house was buzzing with laughter from their friends. Mina, Ochako, Jairu, and Momo had arrived, along with Bakugo. Ochako cooed over the twins, while Mina jokingly remarked on how cute they were, despite Bakugo's gruff demeanor. Bakugo shot back, warning Mina to keep her hands off his kids, which prompted Kirishima to step in and suggest Bakugo pay attention to Akira, who was trying to get his attention. Bakugo grumbled but eventually stood up, glancing at Akira, who was smiling at him. She reached out with her toy, but Bakugo turned away, pretending to be uninterested. Akira, undeterred, crawled closer and playfully tapped his leg, clearly wanting to engage with her grumpy godfather. Akira tilted her head, small babbles escaping her lips. Katsuki, feeling a flush of embarrassment at the nickname, reacted strongly when Aijiro called out from the kitchen, announcing that the burgers were ready. He exclaimed that he didn't appreciate being called that, but Akira giggled, her emerald eyes never leaving her godfather. Katsuki understood perfectly what she meant, and instead of scolding her for using a bad word, he corrected her as a good godfather would, because that was just who he was. He told her that it was Mierda, not Mida, and if she was going to curse, she should do it properly. Akira interrupted him with playful shouts of Mielda, Mielda, followed by her delighted laughter. Katsuki couldn't help but smile, feeling a sense of pride. He was starting to like this little one who, unfortunately, was his goddaughter. Later, Todoroki stood in front of his partner, his expression serious as usual. He remarked that they shouldn't have let Akira spend so much time with Bakugo. Izuku laughed and asked why he felt that way. Todoroki pointed to little Akira in her walker, mispronouncing words and playing with her dolls. Oh, Izuku responded, understanding the concern. The years flew by, and now Akira was 4 years old and more difficult to manage. She exclaimed that she wanted a unicorn, stomping her foot in the middle of the store. Todoroki shook his head. He had just bought the dolls his daughter wanted about 10 minutes ago. He firmly told her no. Akira insisted, pulling at his shirt and repeating her desire for a unicorn. He reiterated that he had said no, and just then Endeavor, who was watching the scene of his son and granddaughter about to cry, approached them. He asked what was happening. Shoto rolled his eyes and questioned Endeavor's presence, wondering if he was following him. Endeavor replied that he wanted to see his granddaughter, noting that it was no coincidence that they were never home when he wanted to visit. Akira's eyes lit up upon seeing her grandfather, knowing he would give in. She pleaded with him for the unicorn. Shoto, serious, warned Akira that she didn't really want the unicorn. But Akira, with her best puppy dog eyes, insisted that she did want it, and her grandfather couldn't resist. 10 minutes later, Todoroki found himself putting the large unicorn into the car. It was almost as big as he was. Akira smiled at her father, who looked at her seriously, as she climbed into the car wearing a unicorn headband. Her grandfather had agreed to buy her whatever she wanted, and she had chosen the largest unicorn in the store. Akira was now 6 years old. Midoriya collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. He mentioned that Akira couldn't stop thinking about the party the next day. She was very excited to celebrate her birthday. He was asked if he had invited all her friends from school, to which Midoriya frowned, revealing that Akira had no friends. He was puzzled, as he thought she was a very cute girl. At school, Akira dropped her small hands on the table, startling her 3 classmates, Yu, Ren, and Matsu, who looked at her in confusion. She declared that she needed their help and pulled out an envelope from her pocket, placing it on the table. Yu recognized the envelope as a letter written in red ink, realizing it was from his brother. He slapped his forehead in disbelief. She explained that the letter said it was for the prettiest girl in school, and she had no idea who that girl was. Yu hit his forehead again, realizing Akira genuinely didn't understand that the letter was meant for her. Ren murmured that he thought the letter was directed at Akira. Akira laughed and dismissed the idea, joking that it was like saying Matsu could read. Matsu pouted at the comment. Yu agreed with Akira, teasing Ren that perhaps they had made a mistake because Akira didn't have anything pretty about her except her name. Akira playfully hit Yu's arm, suggesting that maybe she would improve as she grew up. Yu countered that it was like saying his brother would develop a quirk and stop being useless, which he believed would never happen. Akira gasped, her brow furrowing as she leaned against the table, demanding that he take back what he said. Yu raised an eyebrow, challenging her to see what would happen if he didn't. Shoto sat beside Izuku, gently stroking his husband's curly hair. He remarked that Akira was quite the mischievous child and wondered who she took after. Izuku raised an eyebrow, suggesting it wasn't him. Shoto smiled and planted a gentle kiss on Izuku's lips, claiming she was a copy of him but even prettier, thanks to his genes. Izuku chuckled against Shoto's lips. The sound of the phone ringing interrupted them. Shoto ignored it, too focused on kissing Izuku. Flushed, Izuku lightly pushed Shoto away, reminding him to answer the phone. Shoto insisted it could wait, leaning in for another kiss, saying it had been a long time since they had been ending. Midoriya playfully hit Shoto's arm, still not used to his husband's directness. He urged him to answer the phone. Finally, Todoroki answered the phone, his expression serious but with a hint of concern. Midoriya realized he was right, as Shoto immediately announced that they needed to go to the school because of Akira. Akira swung her feet in the chair, humming a song from My Little Pony, smiling shyly at her parents when they arrived. She asked if they were leaving already. Midoriya frowned, confused, while Todoroki remained quiet and a bit distant, not out of fear, but perhaps to maintain composure. He pressed Akira for what had happened. She confessed that she had hit Yu and accidentally used her quirk on him, explaining that she didn't mean to do it but was upset because he had called Rin useless for not having a quirk. She pouted, on the verge of tears. Todoroki sighed, indicating they would discuss it at home. He exchanged a final glance with Midoriya before entering the principal's office. Akira asked if she was in trouble, rubbing her eyes with her small hands as tears threatened to fall. Todoroki crouched down in front of her, asking her to answer one question. She nodded. He asked who had won the encounter. Akira proudly declared that she had won, obviously. Todoroki smiled, saying he would make sure her father wouldn't punish her too harshly. He high-fived her before they entered the office. He was eager to see Bakugo's reaction. Akira thanked her father, who nodded, signaling her to stay put before entering the principal's office. The sound of crayons falling made her turn, and she recognized a blonde girl. She had heard rumors that the girl was the child of a villain, which made it hard for her to make friends. However, Akira didn't believe those rumors. She hopped off her chair and walked over to help the girl pick up her crayons. Once everything was in place, Akira extended her hand in greeting, introducing herself. The girl, Kira, murmured her name, looking down and not taking Akira's hand. Akira's emerald eyes sparkled with excitement as she overlooked the earlier awkwardness. She exclaimed that their names were almost the same and suggested they be friends. Kira looked up, surprised by the sudden request, her yellow eyes scanning Akira's freckled face before she leaned in closer. She complimented Akira, saying she was very pretty and had freckles, expressing her desire to be friends. Akira shared that her birthday was the next day and pulled out a small invitation from her pocket, inviting Kira to her party. Kira smiled and nodded, excited at the prospect. Akira thanked her new friend and turned to run down the hallway. Just before she turned the corner, she stumbled over her own feet and fell with a soft thud. Akira's father, Shoto, heard the noise and almost rushed to her side, but she quickly got up, exclaiming that she was fine. He called out to her, reminding her to stay put. Akira smiled excitedly at her father, sharing the news of her new friendship, which filled him with pride. Akira pushed her brother aside, annoyed, telling him to move out of her way. Midoriya, her father, stifled a laugh at the sight of his 16-year-old daughter being aggressive with her 10-year-old brother, Ashura. Akira's voice echoed down the hallway as she called out an apology to her father while Shoto leaned against the door, waiting for her to appear. He was ready for her. She began to explain that she was going to celebrate Ren and Yu's birthdays, but her father interrupted, expressing his disapproval of her plans and the company she intended to keep. Akira tried to reason with him, reminding him that Kira had apologized many times for a past incident. Frustrated, she insisted that it was important to celebrate her friends' birthdays. Midoriya felt tense at the mention of the past event, recalling how traumatic it had been for their family. Shoto remained firm, stating that she would not go. Akira's eyes filled with tears as she pleaded with her father, who felt a pang of nostalgia, remembering when Midoriya would do the same when denied ice cream. Midoriya suggested that perhaps Shoto should let Akira go, noticing her dramatic display of emotions. Just then, Kira appeared, her vibrant hair and unique eyes catching the attention of both fathers. Akira, unfazed by her friend's sudden entrance, excitedly assured her father that Kira would look after her. Shoto raised an eyebrow, recalling a previous incident involving Kira getting lost. The two friends began to argue playfully, and after a brief discussion, they decided to leave. Akira urged Kira to put down the snacks she had been munching on, insisting that they needed to go. Once the girls left, Midoriya leaned against the doorframe, watching as their figures grew smaller until they disappeared from view. He and Shoto exchanged curious glances, wondering how Kira had managed to enter their home so easily. They both laughed, contemplating whether they needed to change the locks. As they stepped back inside, Shoto pondered the next day's task of buying a new lock, while Midoriya hoped that Kira would be strong enough to handle any challenges that came her way. Meanwhile, Kira spotted Yu sitting alone in a corner, looking grumpy, and exclaimed in surprise, prompting laughter from everyone else in the room except for Matsu, who seemed confused. "Forget it, Matsu," Kira said, her voice tinged with frustration. "Sometimes I wonder if you really are who you say you are," she added, glancing at Akira. Akira responded to Kira's doubt, turning to the mischievous twin. "Where's Ren?" "Why should I know?" Matsu replied reluctantly, clearly annoyed to be there. "Maybe because you're his twin and you live in the same house, you useless piece of work?" Kira shot back. Kira sighed and took a seat next to Hinata, who was sitting quite far from Ren and Akira. "He's running late," Matsu said, cutting off the discussion before it escalated into a physical altercation. "Why is he late and you're not?" Kira exclaimed, clearly disappointed. He offered to take Dad to the LTRSND, Matsu explained. Kira was taken aback. Your dad is PRDNT? Yes, he's about 6 weeks along. Wow. Don't you have a television or something? Actually no, you frowned. Dad threw a punch at Dad during a fight. Wow, my godfather is intense, Matsu remarked, and everyone nodded in agreement. Do you think Ren will take long? Matsu grimaced, indicating her stomach. I'm getting hungry. Me too. How can you be hungry when you raided my fridge? Akira, I get hungry after I eat, Kira replied. Just then, a boy with blonde hair appeared in Kira's line of sight and ran to embrace her. Ren, she exclaimed. Kira's smile faded as she locked eyes with him. You two are such drama queens. You saw each other yesterday, Matsu commented. When you're in love, it feels like an eternity, Hinata said, sighing as she watched the couple share a brief conversation. How gross, you murmured. It sounds nice, Kira said, her voice trembling as she forced a smile at her friends. Once their friends stood up to greet the blonde twin, you felt the urge to speak up. Kira, don't do this to yourself. What are you talking about? She replied. You shouldn't have come here knowing there.